Good morning, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you might be doing. We wish to welcome you to the Silverlight Show. The Silverlight shines to illuminate that which lies hidden in darkness. For those of you tuning in today, we welcome you in. This whole Poland, United States, Ukraine deal has me questioning people's sanity. Okay, it's very generous of Poland to give up the MiG-29s that they have to Ukraine, and in return they get tax credits, breaks, and all sorts of things from the United States. The United States can technically keep its hands free, and everybody looks the better. Now, the United States, let me start from the beginning. Poland originally made the offer to send them to Ukraine. Then they changed the offer at the last minute and offered to drop them off at a United States airbase. The United States balked at this, and I can understand why. They're already deploying Patriot batteries inside Ukraine. So the chance of a live fire incident between a Patriot and any sort of Russian airplane is significant. And they don't want to get any further involved. Russia's annoyed at Poland, who are also getting Patriot surface-to-air missile batteries to protect their flank in case Russia makes another mistake, which I really don't believe Russia's going to do. And the reason I don't believe that is because Putin's already got his troops on one front. To move them over to the west, to the Eastern European front, would be a huge feat of logistics. And I've said many times, Russia simply doesn't have the resources. They have the manpower, they have the material, but they don't have the munitions. So, my question becomes, a MiG-29's range is about 1,300 kilometers. From Warsaw to Kiev is only about 700 kilometers. Why would it not be possible to get some Ukrainian volunteers to go pick these things up? I mean, they did stranger stuff in previous wars, be it Korea, North Vietnam, World War II, World War I. Whatever you have, it's been done. And that way you can say the Ukrainians took the planes they were given. The United States can sit back and say we weren't involved, even though the whole world knows they were. Poland can sit back and say they were set aside. And Ukraine is the one taking the responsibility for its own defense with its own citizens, so Russia has no leverage on the rest of the world. That being said, I'm not a total expert on military jets. I know which ones I like, I know which ones I don't, I know which are my favorites at the air show. And when I was younger, I had a little healthy obsession with them because, planes are cool. But in this sense, I'm not understanding why they're overcomplicating something that could literally end the war sooner. It's troubling to think when there's such a simple solution. They don't even need to refuel the darn planes. Put some drop tanks on them. Maybe even arm them if you're worried about them going over anybody's territory. If you have to, there's so-called neutral countries that are not part of NATO that would probably be willing to lend an airstrip. But like I said, based on the range data alone, you've got an extra 500 kilometers in those fuel tanks, which are not including drop tanks, to get to Kiev, or whatever airplane. I pick Kiev because it's kind of towards the front line in Ukraine. So why isn't this being done? I'm sure, very sure, that Ukraine can spare a couple of their aviators to go and get new jets. Yes, every combat pilot is needed at the present time, but Ukraine has lost planes. There's a couple people that are sitting on the ground with nothing to do. Even if you can only bring in 3-4 planes a day, that's still better than 0 planes a day. So this whole mishmash, I'm going to call it, because I don't really have another clean word, but this whole mishmash of nonsense over these MiG-29s It doesn't make any practical sense. So why then is it front page news? Because this way it shows that it distracts, I should say, it shows that the Poland is going to be in Western Europe for this example. The Western European nations are making an effort to help. And they're just trying to sort out the legality because Putin's a big bully. By the way, I don't understand why some people are censoring his name to Vlad. That's another story. Putin is still Putin. He's going to do what he's going to do. And that's all I got to say about that. But the rest of the world is sitting back, and this is a big cover story because if Ukraine does get those planes, all of a sudden Russia has to pay attention. The MiG-29 is an older design, but it's the same era as the F-15s and F-16s and even F-18s. There's no reason it can't be quite combat capable. And in fact, while the Soviet Union does have more sophisticated aircraft, MiG-29 does a darn good job. Now, what I question and what drags me into the conversation is, where are the Su-57s? Where are the T-4 Armata tanks? Where are all these miracle weapons that Russia has been developing and promoting to the world? Remember, they wanted India to come with Russia and develop the Su-57 together. That was several years ago. India backed out because France gave them a better deal, which is smart on the Indians' part. The Indians are perfectly smart and capable people, but, building an advanced jet is a tough thing. And France has a lot of very experienced people, so Indian people can come along, they can learn a lot. I mean, this is no offense against the Indian people. The Chinese people have the exact same problem. Building a modern, high-flow jet engine is something that only a very few people are capable of in this world. That's just the way it is. Not everybody can build a performance car. We can all buy one potentially, but we can't all fix one. And that's really what this comes down to. Russia is not risking its most precious assets. Now compare this to the American strategy of the past couple wars. The Americans, during the Gulf War, first Gulf War, when they'd only just admitted they had the F-117s, they were cruising in and doing smart bomb strikes on Baghdad without even being touched. And the F-117s served in every single war until they were retired. The F-22s have engaged in Syria, Afghanistan, Iraq, all those places, although they're kind of overshadowed by the F-15s. That's because F-22s don't advertise, but they do their job. The B-2s. The B-2s have bombed pretty much everything in the world since 1991. And I don't remember whether they participated in the first Gulf War. My instinct is no, but I could be wrong. That depends on being looked up. And you consider that the B-2 bombers were originally a nuclear bomber that some have been modified to drop conventional bombs. So if Russia had this capability to send in aircraft that were invisible to radar and had superior performance to anything in the theater, why are they holding them back? Now, I can't go any further without discussing vacuum bombs, thermobaric bombs, mother and father of all bombs. These are technically not new technology. In World War II, the Germans were experimenting with a similar concept, of course, because the Germans experimented with everything. But the United States and Russia both developed them. It concerns me to see these things being deployed, because they're basically a mini nuke without the radiation. They're expensive to manufacture and expensive to maintain, but for lack of better, it's like a super napalm strike, with added to the fact that it's going to find its way into the caves, into the mountaintops, into the crevices, blow the windows out of any sort of protective structure. Like, thermobarics are no joke. So again, I think they're being used because the Russians are running out of precision-guided ordnance. You don't pull in something of that magnitude if you can surgically pick off every target. This is a good sign for Ukraine. Not in the terms of the lives that will be lost, but it shows Russia's kind of running out of ammunition, just like I predicted a couple weeks ago. And like I keep saying, men, machines, and munitions are what win wars. And Russia doesn't have a ton of smart bombs. The United States spends billions of dollars on that every year. They got a bomb for every man, woman, and child in any single nation that you pick. And they'll be able to hit them square between the eyes with the thing. So the Russians, again, very smart people, everything, but they lack the industrial base to produce these smart bombs. So I think Vladimir Putin is showing strength, but behind the cards that he's showing us, there's weakness. He can't keep this war going much longer. That's why he's resorted to a desperation ploy. It's a humanitarian disaster. There's no good way to describe a thermobaric bomb. There's no good way to describe a bullet. It's something designed to kill. And the thermobaric and vacuum bombs are there to kill a lot of people. I've said this before, I'll say it again. I don't take a side. Putin personally was the aggressor. Putin engaged the attacks. And I've said many positive things about Putin over the years. But here, I think he really made a mistake. He allowed the relatively easy victory of 2014 to sway him that he could do it again. And he's getting up there. He's been in power for a long time. 22, 23 years now? And he was starting to believe his own propaganda. But Ukraine has spent 6 years preparing for this moment. And they learned. And now he doesn't have a trick to get himself out of this conflict. He'll try a couple more big pushes, and then it's either going to die down into sort of a internecine continual combat, kind of like Gaza and Israel, where every once in a while somebody shoots bombs over and the other person retaliates. Or, if he's smart, he'll just declare victory. He accomplished his objectives, which he will define what they are, and walk away. Let the press figure it out, because he can hold on to that for a while and be fine. Now, there's rumors coming out of Russia, and I don't see this as being plausible at all. Supposedly, they told their soldiers that they were going on a training exercise, and that last minute their objectives were changed and they were dropped in. Now, this is a tactic that's been used before. But in the modern day, you go on a training exercise, you get your blanks, you put them inside your magazines, you get them ready, and you can tell a blank from a real bullet real easy. Really, really easy. One has a crimped head, the other one has the classic bullet head that you expect. So yeah, it's possible, it's plausible, but very unlikely. Because the second you get issued live ammunition, you know it's not a training exercise. And that comes from an area I am an expert in, being a veteran. So the whole story of this war, we're not going to know for another 20, 30 years. Which is a shame because, yeah, people are dying out there for things they don't even know or believe in. And like I said, I have one wish, and that's to let everybody come home alive. And I know it won't happen, but please let as many as possible come home alive. Because the Silverlight Show, above all, is about trying to keep as many people alive and healthy as possible. With that, I'll leave you to whatever you were doing. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Silverlight Show as much as you could possibly enjoy it, not given the subject matter. If you did, please like, share, subscribe. Buy a book in the description down in the comments. And we hope you have a fantastic day.